the Hope and Grace Podcast.
By creating this community that values self-reflection, empathy, growth, planting seeds that could grow in ways we can't even imagine. Finding that harmony between your inner world, your mental state, your emotions, and all the crazy stuff life throws at you.
A show that's all about self-improvement, balance, and becoming the best version of yourself.
Today, we are jumping headfirst into Matthew chapter 5.
And it's so much more than just a chapter. It kicks off what's maybe the most famous speech ever recorded, the Sermon on the Mount.
Exactly. Our mission today is to really get into this blueprint for a life that is deeply satisfying, and specifically how Matthew 5 just completely redefines what it means to be blessed.
It's a radical redefinition.
Yeah.
I mean, Matthew 5 is foundational because it's not just a religious text. It's a guide to reshaping the heart before you even think about conduct.
And that challenge is immediate. The first things you read they sound completely backward. You know, the world tells us blessedness is about being comfortable, powerful.
Yeah.
This chapter says, no, blessedness is being humble. It's mourning.
It's designed to be revolutionary. The whole point is to shift your focus from the world's values, which are always changing, to this internal alignment with God's kingdom. That's where the Beatitudes come in right at the start.
Okay, let's unpack that internal revolution because it opens with these just incredibly counterintuitive statements. Blessed are the poor in spirit, and blessed are those who mourn. I mean, in what world is being needy and sad a good thing?
Yeah, and that's the key distinction, right? It's not about emotional misery. It's about spiritual need. When it says poor in spirit, it's not celebrating poverty. It's celebrating the recognition that you are spiritually dependent.
So it's about giving up the idea that you have it all together.
Exactly. It's exchanging that self-sufficiency for a deeper reliance on heaven's wisdom. When you admit you don't have all the answers, you create this space, this vacuum, and that's what invites divine comfort in.
So that spiritual hunger is actually the starting point for growth.
It's the prerequisite, and that connects directly to those who mourn. It's not just about grief. It's often sorrow over injustice or the broken state of the world. It's a sensitivity, a refusal to just be okay with the way things are.
That makes a lot more sense. Okay, so let's tackle maybe the most misunderstood word on this list, meekness. To most of us, being meek means being a weak, passive pushover.
The key distinction is that this type of meekness is absolutely not weakness. It's defined as controlled strength.
Controlled strength? How so?
Think of a powerful warhorse. It has immense power, but it's been trained to respond to the slightest touch from its rider. It has submitted all that power to a higher will.
So it's strength that's voluntarily restrained.
Precisely. It's submitting to God's direction instead of just forcing your own way on the world.
And the promise for these people is that they inherit the earth. How does that work if they're not fighting for their piece of it?
Because their confidence isn't rooted in their own stressed-out attempts to gain power. It's rooted in God's sovereignty, which is unshakable. That produces a kind of deep stability and peace, even when everything around you is chaos. Worldly dominance takes constant anxiety.
Right, you always have to defend it.
But this kind of meekness lets you have a lasting peace. It's an internal anchor.
That reframing is huge. It moves strength from aggression to resilience.
Okay, let's shift from these internal states to more active virtues. The next few Beatitudes seem to focus on outward action, starting with a hunger for righteousness.
Yes, this is where that internal desire starts to manifest externally. And the promise is really direct. Those who hunger and thirst for righteousness will be satisfied.
The implication there seems to be that your spiritual appetite determines your spiritual outcome.
Exactly. I mean, if you crave trivial things, your life gets filled with trivial results. But if you have this relentless craving for what is right, for a life that pleases God, that is what leads to real transformation. That hunger will be filled. That's a powerful motivation. And that seems closely tied to the next one, which is mercy. Mercy isn't just a noble trait, it's a kingdom requirement.
It's non-negotiable. It sets up what you could call a divine cycle. The text is blunt. The merciful will receive mercy. It's like a cosmic law.
So by giving forgiveness and compassion, you actually open yourself up to receive it.
You do, from God and often from other people too. It's intensely practical. It's the mechanism for healing relationships. You can't be a recipient of healing if you aren't a conduit of it for other people.
Which brings us to purity. We usually think of purity as, just not sinning, being morally clean. But Matthew 5 defines it much more deeply.
It takes the whole concept inward. Purity of heart here means undivided devotion. It's not just about your external behavior. It's about your inner world being completely aligned with God's truth.
No duplicity.
Zero. The inner life matches the outer life, and the reward for that is just profound. See God.
Which sounds like something for the afterlife, but the source suggests it's for right now, too.
It is. It means seeing God not just in eternity, but in your everyday life. Through spiritual clarity and discernment. Think about it. When your heart is undivided, your perception is clear. Purity refines your perception. You start to recognize God's hand in things, to hear his voice through all the noise.
It's the mechanism for spiritual sight.
Well,
That's incredible. Okay, so how does all this internal transformation start to spill out into the world? The chapter makes a pretty dramatic shift to external mandates, especially with peacemaking.
we'll explore those questions in the next part of our deep dive.
By creating that space for sharing, you're part of something. It's not just you listening alone, it's about being part of a group of people all on their own journeys.
So we've been talking about some pretty radical ideas. And peacemaking here is not a passive wish for calm. It's an active, sacred assignment. Jesus calls peacemakers the children of God, which means they are actively carrying God's restorative nature into the world.
They're actually building unity where there's division.
They're building it.
Yeah.
And that takes courage. It takes wisdom. It's not about just getting everyone to agree. It's about genuine transformation. Harmony is a divine calling.
But if you're actively trying to bring righteousness and peace into a broken world, you're bound to face some pushback.
You are, which leads directly to the next point. Persecution.
And the source totally reframes suffering here. It says being persecuted for righteousness isn't a sign you've failed or been abandoned. It's more like a badge of honor.
A sign of spiritual alignment. Exactly. When you face opposition just for living out these values, you're walking in the footsteps of the prophets. You're bearing the imprint of Christ. The teaching is an assurance that this suffering is meaningful, that heaven sees and remembers.
So it's evidence you're on the right track.
It's proof. And that leads to the final identity statement, which sort of sums up the whole external mandate, the call to be salt and light.
We hear those phrases all the time, but what did salt mean back then?
Good question. Salt had two main jobs. It preserved things and it added flavor. Before refrigeration, salt was what you used to stop meat from decaying. So believers are called to be a preservative against the moral decay in the culture. Light reveals. It guides, it exposes danger. So the identity is a command to live visibly and purposefully. You have to safeguard truth. You have to illuminate hope so that other people see your life and recognize the goodness of God. You can't be a secret agent.
You can't preserve anything if you're invisible.
And you can't guide anyone if your light is hidden. It demands action.
Okay, so Matthew 5 starts with this deep internal state, the Beatitudes, and it builds to this public mandate. But it doesn't stop there. It then shifts into what some people find the most challenging part, this demand for a higher righteousness.
Yes, the gears shift. The teaching turns to the traditional law, the commandments, but then it requires a righteousness that goes way beyond mere rule following.
It's not enough to just not murder.
Not even close. Jesus moves the focus from the external act to the internal desire. It becomes about who you are in your mind and heart.
So he takes the commandment, you shall not murder, and then raises the bar internally.
He raises it to an almost impossible height. He says the external act of murder starts with the internal sin of anger. He says if you're even angry with your brother, you're liable to judgment. Suddenly, contempt, calling someone a fool, it's on the same spiritual plane as physical violence.
Which means we're responsible for our internal emotional world in a way the old law didn't quite demand.
And this leads to that radical call for reconciliation. If you're at the altar, about to worship, and you remember someone has something against you,
Leave your gift.
leave your gift, go and be reconciled first. That's how important it is. Relationship and peace take priority over even formal worship. It's a call to radical humility.
And he applies that same standard to lust and fidelity, right? The transgression moves from the physical act to the mental one.
It's the same principle of undivided devotion. The battlefield shifts entirely to the mind. If you look at someone with lust, he says, the adultery has already happened in your heart. It's about protecting that purity of heart we talked about.
Because a divided heart can't see God.
Exactly. And finally, there's the demand for just radical honesty about making oaths.
Yeah, that part's interesting.
In that culture, people would swear by heaven or the earth to make their promises sound more binding. Jesus just cuts through all of it. He says, let your yes be simply yes, and your no be simply no. Your word should be your bond. Always.
Which is an astonishing requirement in a world built on contracts and fine print and hedging your bets.
It's a complete lifestyle, one of sincerity, compassion, integrity, and sacrificial love that flows from a transformed heart.
So after this, what's the big takeaway for us today from Matthew 5?
I think the key thing is that this blueprint, it's achievable, but it demands a total reversal of how we see the world. We have the internal revolution of the Beatitudes redefining strength, redefining comfort. And then we have the external mandate to be salt and light, which requires this higher internal righteousness.
And the chapter promises that this lifestyle, even though it goes against the grain, is the actual path to a satisfied soul.
Regardless of your external circumstances, that's the guarantee.
So, since this chapter challenges us to radically simplify our communication, to let our yes be yes and our no be no, here's a final thought for you. In a world full of caveats and disclaimers, how much does that demand for radical, immediate honesty challenge your idea of professionalism or even just self-protection? To what extent might your life be complicated by the subtle lies you feel you have to tell?
Something to really ponder, especially when you're looking for that stability of a meek spirit.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us for the deep dive. We'll see you next time.
Help carry the gospel further. Join the mission of spiritual awakening. Share and subscribe to let the word reach far and wide. Stay connected.
Hope in Christ.